Alright, everybody, we're going to get started. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock, and everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alright, roll call, please.
Yes. Steve Bigelow.
Here.
Ryan Telshaw.
Remote.
Ian McDonald.
Here.
Lori Blargen. Here. Bruce Blargen.
Here.
Danny Harrison. Here. Matt Foucault.
Here. Alright, I'll read the district mission. Okay, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. So everybody take their own time, look at the core values and also the protocol reminders that are on our agenda. And then I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of one item that'll go into the consent agenda. It's a letter of resignation from Superintendent Dr. Johnson.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to make another motion to add to the agenda public discussion in the interest of transparency, the letter which is a subject of investigation at this time.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, motion fails. All right. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item, Spartan Spotlight. Jenna Stevenson, you're up.
Shelf on the podium. And it's just the right, it's just like the over arrow. That's kind of worn off, the other side.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, come on, team. You want me to stand here? Okay, my name is Jenny Evenson. I'm a special ed teacher here in Somerset at the high school. And part of my team is Miss T and Miss S. And we're here to talk about our transition program. Kind of simply put, transition is the program that happens throughout high school, and then students can stay after high school and be part of our transition program with their special ed students. Okay? So preparing students to become independent young adults. All right, introductions. Where's George at? George, where are you at, buddy? George. This is George. George has been at Somerset High School longer than any of us, I think. So he is in, what? Yeah, he's been here for a while. So he graduated in 2022?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. And then has been doing transition for a couple of years. Who's next? What's your name? What's your name?
Allison Maroon, 10th grade.
10th grade.
What's your name?
Well,
Nope, you could say your name. Say your name. Nope, say it.
what's your name?
What's your name?
What's your name? Emily Lenka. And you're in what grade?
Yeah.
12th senior year. Woohoo!
My name is Kimberly Bollig, and I'm in 9th grade.
Yes. And Aaron introduce you guys, but
Oh, yeah. Lori Thurman.
Christina Chavon.
all right. So just a little bit about transition. What is transition programming? Helps students with disabilities become active and valued members of their communities by providing opportunities for interaction and participation in various settings. Skills include, but are not limited to, job skills, life skills, and social skills. Fosters a sense of belonging within the school and community. Inclusive practices benefit students with disabilities as well as their peers through building friendships and learning acceptance and empathy. Programming is always changing based on student interest and opportunities available at the school and in the community. So we strive to have a very strong relationship with the community so we can be out in the community doing things as well as at school. So this is just an overview of the amazing things that this team does throughout the school year. So I won't read all of them off, but lots of fun things. One thing that we got to do recently is we had like a little pop-up shop during the state hockey game where we sold snacks and stuff. So we had a little table where we sold stuff, right? What's your favorite thing that we do, would you say?
Selling.
Selling. So we'll sell to the student body on Fridays, which is really fun. We bake cookies and then we sell them to the student body and staff. The staff really like cookies, right guys? Yeah? What's your favorite? Same thing, selling. Emily, what's your favorite? Yeah. And you like mail?
Yeah.
Right. George, what's your favorite? What do we think George's favorite is?
Mail riding in the van.
Riding, yeah, George just likes to ride in the van. He's like, what's so funny about that? So we do all kinds of things. Last spring we ran the concession stand for the girls soccer team. So that was fun in the fall. We were out on the field doing concessions. You know, lots of skills that they're learning, washing dishes, cleaning, vacuuming. What else have we done? Oh, so the other cool thing that really works well for the district and for us to get the kids to learn lots of life skills is we do the mail for the whole district. So these guys get in a van every day and drive around district office, grab the mail, and then bring it to each building, go to the post office. And then also on Thursdays, we pick up food from the food shelf and bring it to all the buildings for students who need it. Wednesdays, see, they know. They're the bosses here. So that's another thing. And then, what else? Oh, grocery shopping. So this crew goes grocery shopping for the foods classes. So instead of the foods teacher taking time out of their day, going grocery shopping, we go grocery shopping for them, for Mr. Wink, the athletic director, and who else? Oh, school store.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we get to help them out. You know, it's a beautiful service because it's service to them, and then we get to gain some skills. So fun stuff. So I'm going to show some pictures. So this is mail delivery.
So can I just add one thing on
yes.
that? So back when she was talking that we try to individualize it to the kids' needs, like for George, he loves to push the cart. So we got Dick's grocery store to donate us a cart, and George goes to the office and gets the boxes and brings them to the different rooms, whoever it belongs to. And if it's a light enough box, I'll give it to him, and he walks it in the room and hands it to the teacher. So that's just one of the ways that we like to individualize what we're doing.
I think we have some pictures of Joy, we'll see. Okay, so this is mail delivery, just some photos, and you'll see lots of smiles, right? Like this is work that's really fun for everybody, and they get to be out in the community. We'll go to Walmart, and more people know George than any of us. We're like, who are these people? How do they know George? So it's very, very fun work that is filled with joy, okay? Oh, here's George in his little cart. Yeah, so this is the cart that they got. These two came back from Dick's one day with a cart, and I thought, well, district is not going to be happy about this. But they donated the cart. They thought that was awesome. They wanted to donate a cart to help George, and now he gets to be the little UPS man at school. And he loves it, as you can see. This is Friday selling, so baking cookies, you know, different snacks that we have out. Another thing that's fun for George is he has this little button that he can push, and it makes the mixer go, so he can be involved in that. There's Emily working hard. So we have lots of fun. Oh yeah, there's everybody. Yeah. Okay. Whoop whoop.
Great job. Come back here.
One picture, one quick picture. You gotta see George. Okay, see you. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Good for us.
Thank you.
See mom this way?
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Jenna for bringing them in.
Yes, you're welcome.
Everybody for coming in. All right. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Just read a quick statement. All comments should be directed to the board and not to staff or any other attendees. All statements should be directed to me, as no person may address or question board members individually. The board will receive such input without comment or take no action relative to any items brought forth. We may direct the district administrator to consider such an item at an appropriate time on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. All right. Don Peart, you're up first.
Not that I'm not excited to follow them, but it just makes me nervous because they shine. George, I'm not going to beat you up. All right, so thank you so much for giving me these 2 minutes, however long I get. I wanted a chance to speak. I've been at the school district since 2004. I remember when I was new, and now I'm one of the oldest members. Here on staff, I have outstaffed almost everybody I see. Jess became the same year. Sarah, you're older. And so when I came in 2004, it was 4 years after, or 2 years after the big character switch for our football team. This is a history lesson real quick, where Bruce Larson had really changed the outlook of Somerset schools. He went, if I screw up the history, don't judge me, anybody online or here. He changed up what our school was about. And he made it about the character of the students and not about winning or anything like that. And once we got the character of Somerset School kind of under control, like the school did fantastic and wonderful things. And so I just wanted to speak about that positivity and that character that Somerset was known for. There have been multiple staff members who have been hired through the year who came here because of his character education. With that being the core of Somerset School, in 2012-13, I was awarded from the staff members here at Somerset Middle School the Compass Award. This was an award through Randy Rosberg, who also agreed that character was the right way for us to be headed, and so he wanted the staff to choose a staff member, and they honored me with that award. And then last year, because character is still really important, one of our community members, Susan Lindstrom, took the time and energy to write to Fox 9 News and nominate me as Teacher of the Year. And her reason for doing it was because of positive character. And I was so grateful for that honor, and the only reason I've been honored in both of these is because of the incredible staff here. And when I got this award, it just is amazing how much it brought our community together. Like, people I do not know from way up north have come up to me, hey, aren't you a teacher from Somerset who got the teacher award? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. And it's just that positivity. And I don't play Facebook because it's not kind. And I don't understand why. Our message in middle school is, if you can't talk nice, don't go on the Facebook. Don't go on the social media. Stay off. So I stay off because maybe I won't be kind. So I have just a couple seconds. And so there's a couple of things I just want to give, Bruce, to you as a message, because you're the one I'm addressing. A house divided against itself cannot stand. We need to unite under a positive character. And number two, if you can't find a way to be kind, find a way to be quiet. Because that's what we need to do now. Stand together and either be kind or be quiet. Thanks.
Thanks. Berry.
Brandon Berry, 858 205th Avenue. Didn't prepare anything today, but I want to talk about trust and support. When we come to school every day, we have students in front of us, and we have learned, and I have learned for years, almost 20 years now of teaching, kids don't learn unless they trust. They have to trust you as a teacher to have their best interests at heart. That's why you get to go around the elementary school and you get hugs, and you get things like that, because they trust you. They know that you are there for their best interests, for their education. As a coach, as I sit here, again, 20 years of doing this, the kids have to know that they trust. And as Don just said, character makes a big deal. We talk about character all the time. But one of the biggest ones is trust. If they don't think I have their best interests at heart, they're not going to believe in what we do. And in believing in what we do is the main thing to instill in our athletes and our students. So right now, some of that trust and that support is lost. And I know for a fact a lot of staff don't feel that anymore. And it hurts because we are here, we've dedicated lives to this. There are some teachers that we've had going on 30 years now. We have some teachers brand new. But when they see that the trust isn't there and the support's not there, whether you see it or not, it's not, and that's how they feel. And it hurts, and it leads to people not feeling valued in what they do. And I want to get back to that because we, like I said, we've dedicated lives to this profession. And we've gone through education, and we continue to go through education to be better teachers. We go to professional development every year, multiple times a year, to be better teachers. So I'd ask everyone in the room, everyone listening, everyone in the community to trust us, to support us. We do this for the best interests of all our students. There's not a student that we see during the day that we don't want to make better people and better individuals and better community members when they leave us. So if I could ask one thing too, just like Ms. Peer was saying, be nice. Everybody, I don't care what you stand for, be nice. We aren't here to make students believe in some system or anything. We want them to be better people and knowledgeable people when they leave us.
Harrison.
Harrison Boyle, 651 170th Ave. Watching the previous meeting, I heard the discussion of policy 2416 and the potential changes to it requiring parent permission before talking about politically controversial topics, and wanted to comment on it since this directly affects me as a student at SHS. Schools and learning go hand in hand. That's what school is meant for, so that students can learn new things, whether that's academically, socially, or about the world around them. Controversial topics, however vague that definition may be, don't just go away outside the classroom. They're talked about on the news, debated on, and are part of our everyday lives. Requiring parent permission before even talking about them in classes goes against the basic fundamental idea of school and the pursuit of knowledge to learn. It is Somerset School District's duty to prepare us for the world outside those front doors, and preventing us students from discussing and learning about these topics is doing a civil disservice by going against the purpose of school. It is so vitally important in our society to be informed about these issues, whether controversial or not. Somerset School District is not pushing us to believe a certain narrative about them either. The teachers do not try and convince us of a correct stance on them, and we are taught about these things and given the opportunity to form our own opinions on them. Attempting to prevent people from knowing about these issues in the first place by placing limits and additional steps in the way of discussing them in a classroom setting undermines the idea of allowing people to form their own opinions and is unjust. For this, I implore the board to consider the actual impact this policy change would have on the students at Somerset and how detrimental it would be for everybody, and the disservice it would be to each and every one of the 1,400 kids in Somerset by denying them the discussion about important information and topics about the world around them.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next topic, applied population enrollment update.
Sure, I can start, if that's okay, and then we'll move to David, who is
Yep,
joining
so
us virtually.
Yeah, so can David, can you please mute for a moment? I guess there's some feedback coming through to Ryan until, I guess, we're ready for you, if you don't mind.
Is Ryan through the link on the agenda, or did he, oh, he did not.
Noise in the background. It's really garbled. It's hard to hear other people.
I think I might want to.
Alright.
I think I did. I think I did.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, all right, Shan.
So a few months ago, I reached out to David. He is with UW-Madison. I know a few other districts that he has worked with, actually multiple around the area and around the state. As districts are having the same conversations we are regarding enrollment and trying to get some really good data about what some predictions might be regarding our enrollment with births and housing and all those kinds of things. So without further ado, I will turn it over to David. He's going to give you an overview of the 30-plus page report that he put together based off of all of our information and demographics, and then we can have a discussion from there.
Hang on a second, David. I think, can you try unmuting?
Okay, can you hear me?
Perfect, thank you so much.
Okay. And in terms of the screen, what is showing on your presentation screen now?
I believe it's your screen shared with us, so it looks good on my end. It's a little small. I can see if.
Okay.
But I think we're okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Hopefully we can progress here across the ether, and so I can present the full report here. So I just want to say hello to everyone. It's nice to speak to you this evening from Madison. I appreciate being able to present remotely, as in the current year I'm an army of one here doing projections for districts around the state after a colleague retired last year, and I'm not able to travel as much as I'd like to. The results in the graphs that I'll be showing in this presentation are included in our report, but with this presentation I'll highlight the results and explain our methodology. Let's see if I can advance the slides. Hold on a minute. Let's see here.
While he's doing that, I'm gonna email it to you guys, and then I'll link it after. So you got it.
I sent it to them.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, hopefully there won't be too many technical glitches with this. I'll do my best from here. So what we'll cover over the next 15 minutes or so, I'll start with a review of your district's recent enrollment history, and then I'll discuss the major building blocks of our projections, and those being area bursts, 5K kindergarten enrollment, and grade progression ratios, which I'll describe more thoroughly. And finally, I'll get to the projections themselves. Now, I always like to start with just some caveats about enrollment projections, and this applies to any kind of population projections, whether the general population or school districts in particular. So what we do is we produce a range of projections. And projecting is an imprecise science, to be quite frank. So we provide a range of potential outcomes. We actually provide 4 sets of projections using different assumptions. We also do have to make some assumptions about births. Unfortunately, we can't obtain the birth history exactly by your district boundaries. So if a district doesn't follow municipal boundaries exactly, we make a judgment call on what communities to include. In your case, I included births from the town and village of Somerset, which actually accounts for about 3/4 of your population, a little more than 3/4 of your kids under 18 in the district. So the two towns are probably a good representative for the entire district, even though you have, parts of towns like St. Joseph, for example, where you cover part of the town, but not the entire town. In addition, there's no good source about migration, particularly at smaller areas at the national level and even state level. The Federal Census Bureau does a pretty good job about looking at migration, but at smaller areas, it's difficult. So in order to sort of capture migration that's happening, we use these grade progression ratios. And so I just want to make clear, in our modeling, we're not, migration is implicit. It's not an explicit part of the calculations that we do. And finally, projections do smooth out volatility. Chances are the actual year-to-year changes going forward will show more up and down than our projections do. But as an example, these are the births for the town and village of Somerset here in this graph on this slide. And you can see over time there's a lot of up and down. The projection process kind of smooths out this volatility because no one can really predict future zigs and zags in indicator data or enrollment. But what we're aiming for is like a reasonable and plausible projection out, about 4 to 5 years from our starting point. So to just touch on your recent enrollment here. So this is your in total JK through 12th grade enrollment counts over the past 10 school years. And across the decade, the district's enrollment has fallen about 9%, a little bit less than 1% per year. For the first 5 years or so, from the fall of 2015 to the fall of 2020, and that fall of 2020, of course, is the first year most impacted by the COVID pandemic. Your enrollment slipped about 8%, but over the last 4 years, as you can see, your enrollment's only dropped about 1%, and actually it did rise for a couple of years and just slipped down in the most recent year. And then looking at your enrollment by the groupings you have in that your schools are currently in line. This is your JK through 4 population. As you can see, it was up around 630 10 years ago. It did drop down to that first major COVID year, about 547, but has recovered a little bit over the last few years, about 4% or 20 students. This is your 5 through 8, your middle school kids. Again, you had a decline through that first COVID 2020-2021 year, and basically since then it's been pretty level at your middle school level. And finally, the high school, you can see that really stayed pretty much in the same range across a lot of years, and it's only just recently tapered off a little bit. And again, this is largely due, as you had, say, slightly smaller middle school classes as they progressed forward to the high school, just lowered the high school population slightly. One other thing I'd like to always point out is what's going on with open enrollment. You had a net positive situation for the first 4 years of the decade, but then it switched to a negative situation. But I did notice that the negative gap at this point is largely with your 12th graders, and other grade levels are fairly neutral. So sort of looking forward beyond the current school year, looking into next year, a lot of that imbalance will actually, in effect, have graduated, and it's likely your net enrollment pattern going forward is probably going to be pretty neutral, more or less around 0 most years in terms of the net amount. So that's just a quick summary of your past history. So yeah, these building blocks of projections. Let me first, I did show briefly the graph for your birth history, but I can talk a little bit more about this in detail. So we look at a span of about 18 years going backwards, and again, so this is sort of your entire, school age population and preschool age population, ages 0 to 17 at the current year. As I mentioned, this is a combination of the burst in Somerset Town and Somerset Village. As you can see there, as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of movement up and down in the data on a year-to-year basis. But most notable is that, as you can see, even without me slapping any trend lines on here yet, is that burst declined for many years, but then started rising again. So we do, as I mentioned, we use 4 different models. So one model employs the long-range change in burst. And so when you look at the entire 18-year history and we trend that forward, it does show a decline in burst slightly. But if we use a more recent trend, which we apply in some other models, it actually shows that bursts are likely to increase, in fact, fairly steadily over the next 5 to 6 years. The other big, the second building block are your 5K kindergarten classes. And again, we like to use this because what there was a situation where we couldn't get any data about your bursts. Well, we could still make a projection looking at the 5K class and how that's going to progress as each subsequent 5K class progresses through their schooling. So again, not unlike your burst, there was that up and down pattern for many years. And again, long-term trend shows a slight decline, but your recent years are showing quite a substantial increase year over year. And the trend line predicts that going forward. Now what I did do is, when lines started to diverge like this quite so much, I'll admit I kind of hedged my bets, and I split the difference. So when I describe the kindergarten trend method later, I'll use an average of these 2 lines because there's quite a bit of disparity there. Okay, finally the last building block, and again, there are a lot of numbers on the screen, but I'll try to just focus on a few of them to sort of illustrate what we mean by these grade progression ratios. So we calculate the ratio for each grade pair, and in a nutshell, we're capturing the change in class cohorts as they age through their schooling from grade to grade and from year to year. And then we average these changes over 3 time frames, 10 years, 5 years, and then the last 3 years. And we use these ratios to, once children are born and once they get into the 5K level, this is a way of projecting what's going to happen, in particular grades 1 through 12. So just trying to focus in, I hope you can see this okay there. So for example, your 4th to 5th grades from 2018-19 to 2019-20, the 5th grade was 100, the prior year was 99, so basically it's about a 1% increase in that class, in just that particular ratio there. And again, the following year though, when we compare the 4th grade of 1 year to the subsequent 5th grade, it went from 118 to 109, so the class size was only about 92% of the previous 4th grade class. So just to show you, this is, we do all this calculating, and then we average them, as I mentioned, over several time frames. Oh, excuse me, I hope I can get back there. I'm sorry, let me get back here. Okay. Okay. Hope you can see this all right. I'm back to the grade progression ratios.
Yeah, share your screen again.
Okay. All right. The main thing, though, the whole upshot is the box at the bottom, the red outline box. It's basically showing your 4th to 5th grades.
David, I think you need to share your screen again.
Oops, okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see. Is that back?
Not yet, I don't see anything yet.
Okay. Oops, okay.
There we go, back in business.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the 4th to 5th grade, basically no matter which time frame we use, it is showing that your 5th grade is basically growing anywhere from about 1.5% to 4% per year. Sorry about that. All right. So when we graph these grade progression ratios across the entire, all three trend lines across the time, in the case of your district in Somerset, you can see most of these lines stay above 1, which means that your classes in general are growing over time. You get a little bit of a spike there in the 8 to 9 transition, and this is probably influenced by students moving from the parochial school there to the public 9th grade. And you might notice at the start of the graph that the birth to 5K ratios are quite high here, at about 1.30. And what that means is your 5K classes are about 30% larger than the corresponding cohort of births that occurred 5 years previously. And again, we haven't been able to, we're not able to capture births in the outlying part of the districts, but it's indicative that families with preschool children are relocating to the Somerset area. I'd be remiss not to mention a little bit about housing unit change in your area. Before the St. Croix Crossing Bridge opened in 2017, housing starts in the town and village of Somerset averaged about 29 annually. But since the bridge opened, they've had far more housing starts in those two communities. They've actually averaged about 73, so almost triple the average of what was, or 2.5, say about 2.5 times the average of the prior 6 years. So let me get on to the results. I've sort of given you a lot of information. I hope I haven't lost you too much in the math. I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. So when we put all these figures together, and as I mentioned, we have 4 projections, not just one, to give you a sense of potential range. So here's your total JK through 12 history graph here for the last 10 years. And then here's the result of the 4 models that I've added here. So we look out on like a 5, as I mentioned earlier, like a 5 to 10 year range basis. And we're showing the projections 5 years from now, the enrollment being 1,484 to almost 1,600. That's a change from your current of about 50 to about 165, or about 4 to 12%. So all the models are showing growth over the next 5 years, and even out further into the future. Several of them show, sort of continued strong growth in future years. When we look at just the elementary projections, your current enrollment's at 566, and 5 years from now, we're showing anywhere from 621 to almost 700, so that's a change of 55 to almost 135, or about 10 to 23%. You might notice the green line here, that's one model that kind of falls off. And again, that's the one that uses births on a longer term basis, where we're showing a slight decline, where the other models use a pattern of births that show increase. Middle school, and much more moderate change we're predicting here over the next 5 years. Right now you're at 417. 5 years from now, a little bit higher, 425 to about 450. And beyond that, because we've basically created more elementary kids, some of the models do increase more beyond that 5-year time frame. And finally, at your high school level, again, pretty moderate pattern going forward. As you can see, most of the growth is going to be predicted in the elementary levels. And so at the high school, it shows, a decline here a little bit. You're about 450 now, possibly dropping to 425 to pretty much staying where it is now. About 0 to maybe minus 5% difference in 5 years. So just to summarize things again for you, as I showed, over the last 10 years, you dropped about 140 students, about 9%. But that decline has been very modest, really, in the last 4 years. First in the area, as I showed, is a slight decline over the long term, but an increase over the short term. Similarly for kindergarten, showing long term, just a slight, decrease possibly in kindergarten, but a possible increase in the short term. And as I also showed those grade progression ratios, the graph that showed most lines for most class transitions staying above 1. So that's indicative of class cohorts growing as they age forward. And as I pointed out, the birth to 5K ratio, that was 30% higher. And so indicative of families with younger children moving into the area before they entered the school system. And so finally, again, just to sort of wrap up the projections themselves, as I indicated, overall for the whole district, we're looking maybe a 4 to 12% increase over the next 5 years. And most of that, is being predicted at the elementary level. Middle school should maybe get a moderate gain over the next 5 years or so, and high school will probably stay pretty level, might even lose a little bit against some of the cohorts coming in from middle school will probably be a little bit smaller than the current high school ones. So, the recent pattern of births and housing growth in your area indicate that enrollment growth will occur, particularly as I mentioned, at the elementary level. So that's the extent of my presentation here.
Thanks, David. A lot of great information. I guess I would open it up to Bruce if there's questions for David. Now's a good time to run anything past him.
I guess all I had, you said the increase in enrollment, the reason you're seeing the increase is because the increase in houses, even though one of your items in here had a decrease in actual houses with student age or kids, I think was one of the categories. You don't think that number is going to continue to increase?
I'm sorry, I was having a little trouble hearing you.
One of your graphs showed that we do have an increase in housing in Somerset, but even though we have the increase in housing, we still have less houses with kids in them. I'm just wondering, you talk about trending up based on increase in housing and at their JK level, but we also have less houses with families, I guess.
Right, okay, yeah, I follow what you're saying now, okay. Yeah, and we're in a situation, and you're obviously, you may be aware, you're not alone that, right, a lot of housing can get built, but, and I know, I think in your area too, there may be some retirees, right? Housing may be going up, but it may be owned by older people who've already had their families. So, we don't, unless there's really a really huge amount of housing change, we don't make an explicit analysis or projection based on housing change. That was meant to serve as an observation. It is noticeable, the increase in the development of housing units there compared to a lot of districts in the state. That really caught my eye when I compare it to other districts I've done around the state. And so, I'll be the first to admit, it's hard to predict and a good solid connection between number of housing units added and number of children being added, which is why we really focus more on the births and the 5K enrollments and then that grade to grade change.
Okay. Any other questions from?
Yeah, David, I got a question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So when it comes to competition, let's say with other schools, private schools, school districts, how does that factor in? Because I know you had a graph that showed an upward trend and then one that you drew in green saying that split the difference, or is that because of the competition that other schools might have to offer, or you know, if you could just give me your opinion on that.
So I mean, one thing I did focus on, and I saw it in your history of enrollment, was the open enrollment change and how it was positive, back 6 to 10 years ago, but that has become negative. So when I do the projections, I actually control for that change. I kind of assume, because if I just let that, if I just trended out those 2 lines for incoming open enrollment students and outgoing, it would create a really wide gap and 10 years out. It just wouldn't make sense. So it's mainly open enrollment that we look at and try to basically kind of hold that constant going forward. Private schools are a little bit tougher. I know you do have at least one parochial school there in the district. And one thing, of course, you can't always tell are all the kids who are in a private school in a district, within a district's boundaries, are those kids all resident to that district, or could they be coming from somewhere else? So yeah, we don't, and just looking at the enrollment over the last 10 years for St. Anne's School, I believe it is, right?
Right.
That didn't change a lot. So that was, and again, okay, they're gonna, in effect, they're gonna pull off a certain number of school-age children every year, but I didn't see their enrollment really increasing enough for me to be concerned about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so David, I think the Somerset School District had a study done by you, maybe not you personally, but your company. I think it was like maybe 25 or 30 years ago. Did you look at that when you did this study, or was this study standalone?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite catch the question.
Applied Population did a population study of our school district 25 to 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Were you aware of that? Did you consider that when you did this study?
Oh, something that long ago? No, I wouldn't have considered that. I'm curious to find out something was done that long ago. So the program's been around for somewhere close to 30 years. So yeah, because we're only going with our projections, we're only going out 10 years into the future. That's our projection horizon in effect. We only look back at the history for 10 years. So those are, basically 2 equal periods of time.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from anybody? All right, thanks again, David.
Thanks, David.
Okay, you're quite welcome.
If you do come up with any other, please send those to Shannon in the meantime. All right, next item would be the post-prom update. So Jamie, Ashley, or Kristen?
We're all doing mine, if that's okay. And then there should be a clicker in there somewhere.
All right, so we don't have near as many graphs to share as the last one. But thank you for having us to be able to talk about Post-prom a little bit, which we rebranded last year as the SHS All-Night Party. This is really my first year taking over from Stacy, who had done it for years and years. So my first year leading the efforts. I participated last year, but also along with some fabulous junior class parents that are helping with the Post-prom event committee. Besides the rebranding of the name, last year we also expanded the invitation from just 11th and 12th graders to 9th through 12th graders, and hoping to kind of boost that participation in a safe, fun event. We're going to continue that this year, and also looking at the communication. So last year we piggybacked on a lot of the communication that went out about prom, so really focused on like the 11th and 12th grade students. So we've already connected with Alicia and some high school staff members to figure out what are some better ways to communicate to all students 9 through 12. So
the high school newsletter and Facebook and the Scoop and so forth. We did do some research and some careful consideration, and this year we decided on a new event location, really just to significantly boost that participation and the interest in our post-prom event. The changes aimed at still having a really safe place for students to go after prom that's still affordable and memorable and engaging for all students that participate. And we spoke to a handful of high school students, staff, parents, junior class parents, and came up with pivoting from hosting this at the New Richmond the center in New Richmond to Pins in Oakdale. There was the high school actually took the idea came about because the high school took a reward day option at Pins, and so the student feedback was that they really liked the activities, they liked the location. And so that when we did our research, we did look at several locations, but came up with Pins as kind of our final answer for the best package for activities. They do all-inclusive with the food, with soft drinks, unlimited snacks all night long, and including those activities and just a big space, because a lot of times cramming kids into a small space just doesn't work well. So we really found that it's convenient and that it offers some competitive pricing. And so Kristen's going to share a little bit about kind of the details around that night and what Pins has to offer and the planning that's gone into it. And then if you haven't been there, there's some pictures in here so you can see all the fun things that take place there. Ashley's going to talk about some fundraising efforts that we've already had in place, donations that we've secured, parent volunteers, teacher volunteers, and the chaperone requirement. So I'll turn it over to Kristen to talk about some details.
I am so excited to share this new venue with you guys. It's Pins. You can see some of the details on there. We're going to keep the ticket price at $30. So that would be really affordable for our high school kids. And super affordable if you think of all the food high school kids eat. They can max out on just eating at $30. And that includes all food, drinks, and activities at the venue. We are going to come to Somerset High School after prom. We're going to have kids change at the high school, put all their valuables, all their prom gear in their cars, and then bus them over to Oakdale to Pins. They will be at Pins from about 12:30 to 3:30, then we'll head back to the high school. And if you want to just show some pictures real quick. This is what Pins looks like. It's a bowling alley, but it's so much more than just a bowling alley. The venue is going to give us unlimited bowling, and they have done lock-ins before, so they know how to handle students, and they know how to secure the building, so our students will be safe the whole time. There's unlimited laser tag, which is super awesome and fun, and then all non-ticket arcade games. And then there will also be a DJ, so there'll be like 4 different spaces for our students to spread out and be with friends throughout the facility. And then for food and drink, we're going to have hot food. They can either have pizza and wings, or there will be a taco bar. We'll just have to decide between the two. So those are our options. Then they'll have bottomless drinks and, of course, lots of snacks. So we're excited for someone to take care of all this food for us. So it's going to be super fun. It's a great opportunity for our students to get out and do something different than our community has to offer in a nice, safe way.
Yeah, so some of the cool things are, we've been working on donations. I've been doing a lot, but there's been other parents involved. We will be asking parents and businesses through all of our school stuff to get involved and help donate. We are not going to be doing large ticket items just because of the venue and trying to get everything there and back, and kids having to haul stuff, so we're focusing more on gift cards. Some of the cool stuff are, so the Hops usually do post-prom cleanup, and they have a personal connection on reasons why they feel strongly about post-prom, and they've offered to be the ones that are going to be in charge of the school, unlocking it, making sure everything's safe there. We got to figure out building codes and that stuff. So that was great. They're on board with that, which is fantastic. Safeway has, again, offered free transportation to and from the event. I believe they've done this for many years. Just want to give them a shout out here because that's amazing. We've gotten some large ticket items already. Acapulco's has given us $500 in gift cards. Thank you, Lori, for helping me connect with him. Bernard's in New Richmond's already donated $100. We've got a whole bunch of gift cards from local businesses. Big Guys Barbecue, Carboni's in, is that Burkhart or Bozeman? I always forget which one it is, thank you. I've got Green Mill and Hudson Theater, both out of Hudson. Trollhagen is mailing down some gift cards. Simply Beautiful has donated a gift card. I mean, this is literally a St. Croix Valley, like a community event. They all, I shouldn't say they all, but a lot of them chip in. They all feel good supporting this, something we've been doing for years, so, yeah.
No, and it's
Okay.
unique, like when I had reached out to Pins, they were like, wow, you do an event after prom, and either like usually schools just do this for seniors only and don't get everybody in the school involved, so they were impressed with that and just the focus on safety for kids to continue that fun after prom in a safe environment. So like Ashley had mentioned, the focus is really more on those activities and the fun at Pins versus those grand prizes, and so there's still going to be prizes, they're just more gift cards and like door type prizes instead of big prizes. If we get a huge cash donation, we'll consider purchasing additional prizes outside of the ones that the business has donated, but really don't plan on doing that until we know what are ticket sales and what is the donations that are coming in. We knew coming into the event that it's going to be a lot of work, but for personal reasons even, we really feel like promoting and providing a safe and fun environment after prom is really important, and it's worth every bit of effort that we put into it. So thanks for having us tonight and for your consideration in supporting this type of event. I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions before we check out.
Just to confirm, you're not sharing the space with anybody else, you have the whole Pins to yourself?
Yeah, businesses.
Donations, they go to the school district, or are you guys a 501 that people can donate to?
It's through the school
Through the
district.
school, okay.
So, and what you're asking for the school to donate $2,000 to this, correct? So we
Yep.
also have to approve that. If we want to donate, or if we want the school to fund a third of the cost for the rental of the place.
And historically, you have donated.
Yeah, yes, it's been, so historically, it's been $1,500 for the cost of the center rental, and so we just really looked at the cost breakdown to figure out, like, things are getting more expensive, and while the center didn't charge more for their fee, the cost of renting inflatables went up, the cost of food went up, so really the cost was going up, and if you look at like historically what it's cost over the last couple of years, it's between $6,000 and $7,000 for the center once you add in all those additional prizes and the ticketing, along with the food. I think we've done Buffalo Wild Wings in the past, and so it's about the same price. We just looked at the cost breakdown as like asking for the students to pay about a third of the price for their tickets, and that increased $5 over last year. And we doubled our fundraising efforts, so I think the cash that came in last year was about a little over $1,000, and we're banking on the fact that we can bring in two with this powerhouse team, and then asking for a third from the school board.
What's the max number you could take there?
So they didn't give us a maximum, they only gave us a minimum. So Pins it's huge.
Yeah.
There is no maximum. We could bring the whole school if we wanted, I think, but they said we are charged a minimum for 100 students.
Volunteering chaperone.
I know, the sign was coming out in the scoop
I'm
tomorrow.
not there yet.
No, you are though, you are right.
So, it's on the agenda tonight for discussion possible action, so if someone wants to make a motion, we can do that tonight, otherwise we can bring it back to the 7th.
I'll make a motion that we contribute $2,000 to cover a third of the cost of the rental contract at Pins for the not post-prom party.
SHS all-night party.
SHS all-night party. But I've always thought it was such a great idea all these years. What have we been doing this now since Naomi and Sandy did it, however many years ago that was. I think Harrison's mom and dad went. But that we do it on prom night. Some other schools do it on graduation night, and then kids still have graduation parties, but we do it on prom night, so we get them all in a safe place that one night, and there's not another night to do other things. So, yeah, I thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
And when you do it.
So we have a first, we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Any other discussion or anything else from anybody? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody, thanks for doing that and fundraising, appreciate it. All right, budget presentation, Jesse, you go first.
Okay, well, tough act to follow when we hear about the transition program and parties all night long. I'm just going to share a little bit about the pupil service budget for this year. So you guys have we've dug into the different areas of the budget. Special ed budget, the IDEA entitlement funds, they go to two separate areas, one being the preschool budget, preschool funds, and that is funds provided solely for students ages 3 to 5. So it's a much smaller budget allocation, and it's really, so we partner with the county for birth to 3 services. So the county provides those services up until 2 years, 11 months for students that have qualified for then special education. We jump right in at age 3 and provide those services at that time. So it's obviously a much smaller number of students. Those kinds of services really can be different. We call them itinerant services. So maybe just they're coming in a couple days a week for speech and language, or a couple days a week for early childhood, or for our more like significant needs, they might be coming in for 4 days a week. So it really varies depending on need. But again, much smaller amount. And then the flow through funds, which can be used for all students that qualify for special ed, ages 3 all the way up until 21, so those students that are accessing our transition program. So those are the two different areas. You can see the numbers for the budget for this year. So we have both this year's budget that's allocated and then the carryover, so the funds that were not used last year kind of go into this year for all the different areas that we have to provide services for. So I've got it separated out into the 3 separate areas. There's lots of different areas and categories that we can kind of separate it out, lots of different codes that they get allocated to, but I would say these are the 3 most common. So anything that falls under purchase services, so we contract out for physical therapy services because we have such a small number of students that access that support. We've had to have we have our own occupational therapists and speech language therapists, but we've had to have some coverage for leaves that they've had. So then we contract out for those services. We provide some services over at St. Anne's for speech and language. So if other students did qualify at St. Anne's, we would also be providing those services, but again, just a separate kind of pot of money for that. Different transportation costs, travel costs for different professional development. One of our big kind of chunk of our budget comes from different day treatment facilities. So a day treatment program that we send some of our students to if we can't meet the needs here is Northwest Journey, and then paying for any homebound services too. So those are all kind of the purchase services that we would allocate some of those funds for. Different non-capital objects, so all of our special ed teaching supplies. So each of our special ed teachers have their own kind of budget that based on needs, caseloads, kind of what they have to program for. They get a specific budget, different instructional software that we use. So whether we're using Lexia, Flow Reading, Achieve 3000, those are all kind of specific reading curriculums or reading resources that we help to deliver that specialized instruction, a little bit different than what might happen in the general education classroom. IXL is a huge tool. We primarily use it for math right now, but we're looking at maybe expanding that for writing or some of our ELA needs as well. Different testing protocols, so the things that our school psychs use for different tests, test kits, and then our special education and 504 program software, so how we write our IEPs and kind of house all of that data. Other objects, so just other things we have to pay for, so dues and fees. Our special ed aides all have to have a certified license through TPI, so we pay for that, fingerprinting, and then other professional development for staff. So that's kind of where the largest part of our budget comes from. Going through this really quickly. Any questions that you guys have before I keep going? Okay. Again, so you can see the pot of money for preschool, much smaller. Preschool that can only be used for those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. You can see the purchase service. A lot of the similar things. It's just, again, to kind of keep in mind such a smaller number of students that we're going to service. So smaller funds there. So if we do not have, so we have maybe a smaller number of students that receive our physical therapy, or if they have, if our students that are deaf and hard of hearing, so might have different audiology services or things like that. These are different contracts that we provide for outside services. So we have to make sure that even though we don't employ them here in the Somerset School District, we contract out for those services to make sure we can meet the needs of what's on their IEPs. So like I said, this year kind of a unique situation. We had a couple leaves that we had to cover for our occupational therapy, approximately that amount of money. Again, physical therapy services, we have our physical therapists that we share with 2 different districts. So approximately that's what we spend. Currently, you know, you guys have heard, you guys have seen the different CISA contracts. So if we have a student that comes in with a visual impairment, we would contract out with CISA to provide those services, but it's again on an as-needed basis. And then you can see for students that are placed in those outside specialized programs, like those day treatment programs, we spend approximately $1,000 to $3,000 a month on that. Questions on contracted services? Keep going. So you guys have heard, and I know Davis kind of talked about, right, so the amount of funding that we get from the state to cover all of those things isn't enough. So the district has to supplement those for all of those costs. Largest part, it comes from the different salaries and benefits to pay for our special education staffing, school nurse, any of those homebound instructions, right? So these are all the things that this amount of money we have to borrow from that 110 to pay for the different special ed services. Payment to the outside facilities, payment for those CISA services. So again, that amount is going to vary year to year. I mean, we were looking at it in the last 3 years, and it's been pretty much similar, but there might be some variance, but depending on salary, different students that might transfer in, that we have to kind of offset the cost of their needs. The biggest thing is that we have to kind of take into account the maintenance of effort. So basically, it's the requirement to make sure that we don't make kind of drastic cuts in order to not be able to support the students that we have. Make sense? Projected needs for next school year, some things that are on there, some things that are kind of coming down the pipeline. Looking at different communication devices that our students need, physical therapy equipment, some different kind of seating. We are 2 physical therapists and occupational therapists wrote a grant, so they did offset some of these costs for some of this like specialized equipment, but there's still more of a need. Looking at some different transportation costs for off-site placement. We have some students that are very medically fragile, so providing some of those nursing services for those students. Last year on the budget, there was some planning looking at replacing the special ed van. Ladies over there, yep. So looking at that again of just kind of what that cost would be. So yeah, and just the other kind of specialized student supports.
And that was with the carryover?
Carryover
that you
funds.
had from a year ago?
Yep, correct. That they were looking at using that for the special ed van. Is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's what you'd be looking at for that?
Correct.
That category?
Yep. For this next year.
Yeah.
These are so obviously pupil services, it's a whole umbrella. These are all of the other areas that we still look at for funding the different Title III, the different CISA, emergency management for all of the training and supplies, the student support specialist, so looking at kind of what the AODA grant can provide and the different professional development that we do. The district healthcare provider, now we have got the aides in the other 2 buildings, which has been really helpful for our student needs. And then the homelessness that we can't necessarily plan and predict, like when they're going to come in. We have to provide the transportation. We have to split the cost with the other districts. So it's on an as-needed basis, but it can happen. It's hard to predict and plan for that. So that is all. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Jesse, before you go.
Yeah.
I don't think, and maybe you don't have this off the top of your head, I don't think I saw it in your presentation. So could you talk about what your total budget is and how much, I know you said the $2 million about from our Fund 10.
Yep. The total budget was about 305,000 plus the 80,000 of carryover for flow through.
Yeah,
Yep, that's the total
Well-
budget.
say that again, please.
The total for flow through was the 305 plus the 80 from
No, I
last.
mean your total budget. So your total budget is,
380. Yeah.
305,000.
Yeah, plus the 80, because
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
carryover
it's-
goes
yeah,
into
carry-
that fund.
What was 1.9 million that you had up there?
That is what we have to take from the general fund to transfer in to offset. So we have to still pay, right, we have to separate all of the special ed costs for teachers and salaries.
right, so that's the total number I'm asking. And
So
that,
what we borrowed last year was 192, I think is what the number was.
1.1, so almost 2 million.
Right.
Correct.
So the 2 million plus the 3 whatever,
85.
plus the 80 whatever, would make it like 2.5 million about, ballpark?
I would trust your math over mine, Lori.
So, how much of that comes from the federal government and how much of that comes from the state? Do you know that?
Yeah, I'm off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can look.
Okay, and have you heard if there's going to be any impact on our federal dollars based on some of the things that have been happening in the past few weeks?
I mean, I know that the discussions were that they were hoping to fund it 60%, and I would say that right now, that's a huge unknown.
I'm talking about at the federal level.
Oh, and again, I think that is a big unknown right now.
From what I understand, it's getting moved to Health and Human Services, HHS, and nothing's changing with that.
So I can talk about that when I talk about the budget, because the legislators that I met with spoke to it as well. And I would just mention what you were bringing up about almost the $2 million transfer.
Right.
This is why we talk about the importance of special education reimbursement.
Yes.
You know, that would be potentially $2 million that stays in our general fund. That would be a huge, that's a huge deal every year. So when you hear people talk about the special ed reimbursement that you're mentioning, that's why. So, thank you.
Sure. All right, Troy Wink, Athletic Director, Activities Director. Talk a little bit about our athletic department and budget. Just real quick, I think it'd be a great opportunity to take this moment and recognize some academic all-state people we've had. I don't have individual names for them, but each association, you can nominate, like for football, it's seniors only, basketball, it's anyone on varsity, similar with hockey, wrestling. So we've had 3 seniors get academic all-state football, 10 in girls basketball, 9 in boys basketball, 2 in, girls hockey was second as a team with overall GPA, and then wrestling had 2 individuals as well. And then for the playing expertise this year, we had 3 people get recognized at the all-state level, and that's Carson Bellil, boys hockey was second team for a goalie. Sophie Johnson was girls hockey honorable mention, and Kane Donnelly was boys basketball honorable mention. Again, that's through our winter season. Obviously, spring sports are still coming up, and nominations happen for those after the seasons. But I thought it's really cool for a lot of these athletes are 2 to 3 sport athletes and do a great job on and off the courts and ice and fields and whatever else they play. Getting into the budget side of things, we're a member of the WIAA. That's what governs us overall. We're also a member of the Middle Border Conference. Our girls hockey team is a member of the Big Rivers Conference because we don't have enough Middle Border teams to form a conference. All the sports we offer 18 in total. Different activities that we sponsor: cheer, dance, drama, dynamics, forensics, National Honor Society, robotics, ski club, and student council fall under our umbrella of what we sponsor and we support. Then all of our middle school programs that we offer. Again, you know, I'll get into that as we go through, but our budget, we kind of shifted some of our funds from the Fund 10 account and athletics, supporting that for middle school into our Fund 80 account. I'll show what that's done for us and will help us, like for my side of things anyway. Budget breakdowns, our high school athletics 400 account. So far to date, we've spent $90,000, 454. Going into the spring season, we had budgeted $157,000. So we're well on pace to be under budget for that. High school athletics makes up 81% of our budget. High school activities 9%, middle school athletics was 9%. And then, so there's the middle school athletics. 11,205 is what we spent on it last year. Because we didn't shift the funding to Fund 80 at the start of the year, so we had some of our fall sports go under that. We spent just under $3,000 so far this year. And then our middle school activities make up less than 1% of that budget. So then next year, as you kind of look at this, as we start to look at some of the things that we have a need for, basically $11,000 is being saved out of the athletic budget anyway. Breaking it down a little bit further so you have a better understanding of what our money goes towards, 56% of it, or 54% it goes towards our personnel, which is our officials, services, and our game workers. So like all of our officials is a huge portion of this. Game workers is a small portion of this. I would say of that 54%, it's probably close to 40% of it's our official fees. Another almost 16% of it goes towards our entry fees to events, our MBC membership. Any tournament entries we go to, basically if you go to a track meet, a hockey tournament, a wrestling tournament, they charge a fee. And so that's where that comes out of. Dues to be members, all the things that go into that kind of comes out of this pool of money. And then our general supplies, just to kind of give us the basics, it makes up about 29% of our budget. Other added expenses in the last few years, when we made a switch over, our facility scheduling software was previously with our community ed, which doesn't exist anymore. And our facility equipment needs, again, has been put into the 400 account, but that is already taken, that's in the budget that you see here, or you've seen. So I just wanted you aware that it used to come out of different pool of money, and now it comes out of mine. Budget requests or things that high needs coming up. Reinstating our uniform rotation. 4 teams each year purchase new uniforms. We've offered it cap it at $2,000. Many times teams can't get it for that amount of money, but that would get them a pretty basic uniform, and then if teams want to have frills to their uniform, so to speak, they can kick in money themselves. So if we did 4 teams, that's approximately looking at $8,000. I do have a suggestion on how we can get some of that back on our next slide. We need an increase in our pay of our lower level officials. In the 8 years that I've been in this district, we have not increased those fees. And I reached out to all the other middle border schools. We are, I wouldn't say by far the lowest, but we are the lowest paying in the conference. And that makes it really, really hard because we draw from the exact same pool of officials as everyone else. And if you live in Hudson and you can go to New Richmond or River Falls or even past Somerset to go to Osceola and make a few more dollars, they will, and they've told me that. So that's something that we have to have. It's a $2,200 increase by adding $10 to each official for every sport. To me, that's not a huge increase, but it, obviously something that is increasing it. And that increase is also adding in the fact that the varsity is increasing $5 each year for every sport, for every official. And that's via the middle border requirements. An effort to try to, again, keep pace with the Big Rivers Conference, the Dunn St. Croix Conference, all the conferences around us that are bumping up their pay every year. System in place for providing a pay increase for coaches for years of service. I've not had any pay raises in the last 8 years. Once upon a time when teachers got a pay increase by percentage, then the coaches did as well. But that was dropped a few years back. And so anytime you've been giving teachers had all those people increases, hasn't fallen onto any of the coaches. In our handbook, we have a $500 per year after 10 years of being a head coach, but that has not been enforced. In doing some research on that. So again, that's something that whether it's that avenue, but that only helps our head coaches. Again, when you look competitively around, our lower level coaches are probably near the bottom of all the schools in the area as well with that. School will cover the cost for coaches to go back to state tournaments or their coaches association clinics. In the past, we've offered that. They could go to one or the other, viewed as a professional development type of opportunity for them. And then basic supplies will continue to be covered by the athletic department, but teams continue to fundraise for other needs above and beyond. So that's kind of always been the case anyway, but just kind of, again, we offer the basics out of my budget, and then if they have some extra things they need or want, then they have to raise that themselves. I'm going to move on to this one, and then we could kind of take, if you have any questions about the two slides. So currently, we have 16 businesses that pay at different levels to sponsor on or advertise on our indoor and our outdoor scoreboards. We've doubled the number. Some are on a year-to-year commitment, and like our two super sponsors, who are the ones on the bottom of our outdoor scoreboard, they're on a multi-year contract, so we have them locked in. We've doubled the amount of sponsorships from last year to now. We run their business ads during all home games. We have their names and logos on our website. The revenue source, this will be one way we can offset some of the expenses that I was referring to on the previous slide. I would start drawing from that to get our uniforms back in pace. We've had a 2-year freeze on uniforms, and so we're now that far behind. It's been on a 4-year cycle, so now essentially we're behind those extra 2 years, so we got to get that going again. And then another thing that I think that sponsorship can help offset is getting our coaches to their associations and state tournaments. Again, it's covering the basics, it's getting them, covering the fee to get into it. It's still on them to kind of get the transportation and things like that. Any questions on those two items? Mainly these two so far, anyway?
Where does that sponsorship money go right now?
Fund 21.
It goes to Fund 21?
Yes.
And the original purpose was to get enough money to pay for those electronics. Are those paid for yet?
The indoor one is, and the outdoor one was a part of our referendum. So technically, yes, it's paid for, but then we also have the yearly subscriptions to each of the two companies to run the software. So again, that comes out of the sponsorship money too.
Right.
So it's not like we're piling money up, but it's helping us maintain where we're at.
So is there a surplus? Is there money from the sponsorships that goes beyond what we are paying out to run the scoreboards?
I would say I'd have to see where we're at when it's all said and done, because we're still making those payments to the two scoreboards, and some of that renewal stuff comes up right now. And so I would say we're probably at a little bit of a surplus, but not a whole lot right now. But the goal is, because everything's paid off, that if we keep this number, then there would be a little more of a surplus that then we could tap into for those other things that I've listed as needs. Makes sense? Anything else on that?
There was something that you said used to come out of Fund 80. It was I think it was the sign up. Yeah.
It's the software stuff, like just this is prior to me, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's just the actual facility scheduling software that we use.
Right.
And then
is that coming out of Fund 80 this year?
No.
But it could.
Sure. I'm all for it. I'd have to get you that. I don't know the exact number.
Right. I was going to wait till you get through it all, but just back to the sponsorship piece and the increase, the uniform. Have you looked at, and maybe this is to come yet, have you looked at where do we compare with other districts as far as fees go for each sport? Like, is there a way to get ahead?
I've got a little bit here.
Okay.
I think it's here. Or it's coming soon. So some different revenue avenues that we do have. Okay, so gate, for the 23-24 school year, we raised just under $14,000. Again, and that goes into our Fund 10, those, just the general fund. This year, maybe we'll see a little bit of an increase from that. I mean, obviously, we're at the mercy of people going to games and paying, but as a conference, we raised our visiting student fees from $4 to $5. So that's a little bit, just because of like everything, prices going up. I think there'll be discussion. We have a athletic director meeting on Wednesday that I'll be at. And I plan to bring up, like, do we want to look at increasing that as a, we stick together as a group because we don't want you have to pay $6 to go here and $4 to go there. So it's kind of a group decision on some of that. So that's kind of where we're at, but I wouldn't be opposed to raising it another $1 across the board just to kind of generate a little bit more. We do not charge admission kind of just based on the parameters of what we have and where they're at for any of the other sports that are listed there. With having track for the first time in a while, I did reach out to other schools and nobody generally charges to get into track meets. That's not something that, I would definitely look at. I think it partly will depend a little bit. It'd be good to get an idea of how many people come to a track meet because we do pay workers to work those. So like, if we're not getting a lot of people to come, it might just be offsetting what we spend too. So we still have our Somerset students get into events for free. And then the hockey rink, kind of, one of the agreements we have with them is all admission there is handled by them, it goes to them. Some other things that we get a little bit of money off of is entry fees, teams that attend our own invites, so like our track meets coming up, our wrestling invites, those types of things. Registration fees that I want to get into on the next slide, concessions, any team that works a concession, they get a percentage of the profit. So just as another way for them to raise a little bit of money, and then when they're looking at adding those extra things to their program, they have that option. Every team runs some sort of fundraiser to some degree. We do get some donations, and then, and I'll break this down too, but hosting of WIAA tournament events give us a little bit of profit, not a lot. So currently, we charge $65 for an individual, $140 for an individual max, and $390 family max. The family max essentially comes out to, if you have a combination of people signing up for 6 sports, you'd be maxed. Activities fees is at a $40 individual fee. Again, that activities fee could apply to the max also, so you can get a little bit. But for simplicity purposes, I kind of based everything off of the $65 individual fee. Ranked out of the 8 conference schools, we're right in the middle on the individual fee, on the individual max. Family max, we are the 6th highest out of the 8, which I found was interesting a little bit. Altoona doesn't charge anything, but in talking with their athletic director, they are most likely going to change that. And Prescott's on the high end of $105 per individual. Again, on the individual max, Altoona 0, Osceola is the highest at $300, and the family max range, Altoona 0, Osceola is the highest at $600. This year, because we do have all of our spring registrations basically in, so I just use this year's numbers, we have 694 students register for athletics, of which 623 pay. And why wouldn't you pay? Well, because free and reduced. If you're free and reduced, you get 0 charge. It is interesting to note that some of the other schools, even if you're on free and reduced, they still do charge them to be in activities. Like Baldwin, I believe, is the lowest at $35 individual fee, but yet they charge free and reduced families to participate. So if they paid $65, it equals $40,495 for athletics. Then the next one down talks about the activities. We had 285 register, which 256 paid the $40, which comes out to $10,240. it's my thought and my recommendation, again, something we haven't done in at least 8 years I've been here, I don't know if it's been longer, but is add $5 to each registration group. If we did that, it would be an increase of $3,100 in athletics. It would be an increase of $1,280 in activities for a total of just under $4,400. If we add $5, it keeps our ranking among the middle border schools right where we are, and it will offset some of the other needs we have. So that's, you know, again, that was kind of brought up last year a little bit, but I was able to dive into it much more this year, and I thought, you know, with where we're at, ranked within the conference, we're still in a good spot. Like we talked about, things have gone up quite a bit for all of us, and so to add $5 on probably isn't, you know, obviously nobody wants to have anything added on, but I think it's a benefit to us that we could, you know, if you look at that number, it offsets 2 sets of uniforms if that's what we put that money towards. So any questions on that breakdown of things? Some other revenue stuff, like talked about the WIA state tournaments, we get 20% of that profit, which goes basically to paying our workers. We really don't end up with a whole lot after that, but it's kind of a prestige thing to have the WIA choose us to host events in our district, and we've hosted, and I'll go through that here shortly, basketball and hockey over the years have been the main ones we've hosted. We do get kickback from the co-op, hockey co-ops based on students' participation numbers. We get a prorated amount back for that. Every year we get a robotics grant and we get music grants. So just going to kind of skim through these real quick. Last 6 years we've hosted WIA events, 5 of them in 2020. The 2020-2021 season we had 10 events. The last couple were, some have been because we had teams playing in it, as you can see, and some have been because we've been chosen as a representative of the WIA. And then obviously COVID hit that year as well. 21-22 season, we hosted 13 different events. 3 of them were because we were chosen as, 13 of them because we had teams playing in it, which is obviously awesome. 2 years ago, we had 7 events hosted due to our teams playing. We had 3 separate events hosted, and then last year we were at 11 events, and then 2 events we were scheduled to host. So on top of those, we could have had 4, but because we had boys and girls playing in those games, we can't host those games, so they got moved. And then this is where we're at right now, fall through winter. We've had 8 events hosted due to our teams playing in them. And then we've hosted 3 bigger WIA events with the boys sectional final, hockey, girls hockey final, and the boys basketball final. So that's just kind of, so when you start to think, okay, with 20% of the profit, it's a little bit, like I say, bigger the event, the more workers you need to kind of support that. And so we're not getting rich off of it, but it is a little bit. GoFan is our ticketing agent now. Last used to be Tickets Picker for the longest time. It's been a pretty smooth transition conference-wide. We went to GoFan. We do have the ability to have a credit card reader that we used during the football season, kind of got away from a little bit during the winter season. Some mixed results with that, but I think it's a great option. I think more and more schools are leaning towards going cashless. It was at a couple if you go to a state WIA event, it's completely cashless. But even like sectional and regional rounds, a lot of schools go cashless on that, which would be nice because a couple hours maybe, depending on the event of my next day is spent cash recapping all that stuff and adding it all up and getting it turned in. Currently we do still accept cash at the gate. Again, we run other events like our musical, prom, sign up is through that. Yeah. And then real quick, you know, in the past we've talked a little bit about hockey and some of the comparisons. So again, here's the comparison, what other schools do to help offset or what they charge their athletes. Again, for the most part, we're kind of in line with what others have done. some of the things that we talked about prior, maybe it could be used to offset some of this as well. And then just a breakdown, like when you start to get into what each is budgeted, what the busing cost is, coach stipends, all the things, what it comes out to per athlete.
Can you get back to the hockey co-op? Yeah, this one.
This one?
Yep, so what our students pay, our families, about 900?
Oh, 900, yes. You take into account your ice fees and our athletic fee. And I meant to reach out to Coach Lepper, but I do know that they reduced theirs significantly this year just through a lot of fundraising. So you see him selling corn on the corner in the winter, or in the summer, I mean. Buy it, it's going to pay off hockey fees. You know, again, everybody raises money and it's put towards different things, and summer use of ice is expensive just as well as winter time. So like a lot of times when we fundraise, kind of offset some of the other things too for that. So
I got a couple questions. Are you done?
yeah.
Just so one question, when is the last time that you have maybe had a conversation with each head coach to figure out what would the dollar amount be to replace the uniform, like get caught up? Have you done that in your time?
I've not done that. No.
Would that be something you could do? Because it would be really helpful, I think, to come to the board and say, you know, if a one-time expense of X dollars would get us caught up,
Okay.
rather than just always playing catch-up. And then my next question was, like, facility-wise, does any facility maintenance come out of your budget? So, striping the football field, dealing with the baseball field over at Village Park, waxing floors, is anything?
That's not out of my budget. That's out
Okay.
of the maintenance, buildings and grounds, to my knowledge.
Okay.
This is the budget.
And then I think my last one would be, have you, and again, maybe this is kind of a co-conversation between you and facilities about, like, if the hockey association, you know, the youth association that owns the rink ever, you know, had a catastrophic event and lost that ice, what would the backup plan be? And then baseball, I mean, I'm sitting looking at the baseball coach there. I know it was on our referendum a few years ago. Is there any type of kind of a capital improvement plan, whether it's 5 or 10 years out, to put a field here? And what would that dollar amount, like, what do we need to start saving? Because as I think, you know, enrollment and open enrollment out, and how do you attract, you know, when we don't have all of those options that the others do. You know, I'd love to see us have a plan to at least try to get there, whether it's a long ways out or not.
So we should have both of those from when we first ran the referendum, because they did have numbers for both of those, the baseball and the hockey, because that hockey was a question that went out. I mean, granted, that was 21 or 22, but, so it should be, might even try to pull something that can get an updated mold that
Yeah, I could definitely look at
It'd
that.
be helpful, I mean, again, as you think of families, hey, maybe it's paying $20 more in registration fees because it helps get us to an end goal down the road. You know, I would like to hear that information at least.
Got it. Can do.
With some of these things you're proposing, Troy, would that be something you would bring back in, like, when you do your handbook updates?
Yeah,
Or would you
I
do
could.
it prior to that, or just?
Well, I would say that, you know, if we're gonna add, especially the fees, like all those things, you know, registration fees get cranked up basically once the school year ends. We kind of open it up June 1st, or not maybe that soon, July 1st at the very latest. So anywhere between now, I'd want it before we want it open. And, you know, and like I send out official contracts for next year, basically already. So, yeah. So I guess, you know, if you want me to, I don't know, what do you need from me, I guess? And how does it need to look?
Do we have to approve any of that, or is that something that's just?
So I would suggest that we have Troy write a memo.
Okay.
Bring the memo to a work session. So we've got all the information, right? Not a surprise, like you said, you're not opening up registration and then a month later saying, oh, we're increasing fees, right? So I don't know if the next meeting is too quick because the next meeting's Monday, but so you and I can connect tomorrow. Why don't we can, but that'd be my suggestion, that we have them bring a memo and then you guys do 2 readings of the memo.
Okay. Any other questions for Troy? All right, thanks for coming in, Troy.
Yeah.
All right, next item is our superintendent report. Listening session update first, Steve or Lori, do we have any?
We didn't have any.
Okay. We don't have anything on the referendum, so since we didn't have anybody here, we did a walkthrough, Lori, myself, Shannon, walked through the new auditorium. Lori, if you want to just update, maybe click on that.
Well, it was really exciting to see, I saw so long ago the drawings and to see what's going on inside. And the people from Market Johnson, they did a great job explaining where everything was and what this was going to be. And I asked when we could see it again. And they suggested June. There would be a significant difference between what we saw today and in June. So I'm looking forward to that. One of the big things he said that would be happening in the next couple of months is the concrete in the auditorium area where the seating is. So you can see how the ramp, the seating will go up in a higher level, and it'll be a lot easier to visualize everything. So it was exciting to see everything.
That's good progress. They said they'd be available, they plan to be available for an event beginning of October, is what they said. They've got everything commissioned and ready to go October 1. So the place will be open before that, but ready to actually do a show ahead. All right, with that, Shannon, superintendent update.
Yep, I've got two things that are actually pretty closely related. So about 2 weeks ago, went to the monthly superintendent meeting at CISA. It was our yearly meeting where we had 8 legislators come in, did kind of a nice back and forth of talking about a variety of topics, but of course the first topic was the budget. So just want to mention a couple things that they had shared, and a few of them are on the Joint Finance Committee. So the first quote that the very first person gave was "plan for the worst." We shouldn't expect to see any budget information until late fall, early winter, which is different than what we've typically been told up until this point. We were counting on getting that information in June or July. So as we are doing planning, obviously for staffing, operations, those things become really difficult when you don't know your budget, right? Which is kind of the issue that lots of districts have right now. According to them, timelines are very slow. The budget will not get done very fast, and because of the huge surplus, and this is not new, from the last biennial budget as well, that there are lots of demands and lots of entities that are asking for the money other than just education, as you can imagine. So they're kind of sifting through all of that. According to the 8 people that were there, neither side of the aisle is interested in making a move, so everyone's just kind of sitting and waiting at this point to see who's going to make the first move. Federal funding was brought up. I would say conflicted information from the people that were there. A few said that nothing will be cut or touched to education. A few others said, well, it's not quite that simple. I wouldn't bank on that. So I would say they were kind of right in the middle of some saying yes, some saying no, so stay tuned. And I would say in light of that, and this is consistent with the information I've had from my other state superintendent organizations as well, not knowing what our budget is going to be, my suggestion would be putting 4K, all-day 4K on hold. I wouldn't be comfortable recommending, putting almost $500,000 onto our books without knowing if we're getting any type of increase. Is it going to be the exact same? There are some models where actually we get less than what we had at the last budget cycle. So as excited as I am, and I know many people were about the possibility of that happening, I would say at this point, my suggestion would be to put that on hold, unfortunately, without knowing where we're going to be. So those are my 2 updates.
Anybody have any questions for Shannon? Okay, any questions on the financial reports or enrollment report? All right, and we'll move on. Thanks, Shannon, for the update.
Yep.
Next item, we'll move on to policy 2416, discussion and possible action. There was a Google Doc out since the last meeting. A few comments made on there.
Alicia just resent it in our email, so it's easy to pull up and take a look.
I'd like to make a motion right now
Okay.
to approve the revisions as laid out here in the green, all of them for policy 2416.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? I mean, I had a comment on there. I like the first option that was on there, that we, I think is what we looked at adding right away at the beginning of the year, and then for everything else, I didn't think we needed to have included. To me, it made more gray area than making things black and white.
I agree. I think that we don't have an issue we're trying to solve here. I don't see a problem with the way the policy stands as it is.
We had extensive conversation about this at our last meeting as well, about all the vagueness and questions about some of the added language and how it would necessitate a legal overview to make sure that you could even do some of these things.
Any other discussion, otherwise we can take a vote, since we have a motion.
We were okay with some of it, right?
The only two people who commented were Bruce and I, and the only,
I mean, our last meeting.
no, I mean on
The Google Doc.
the Google Doc, was that just the first one, or given an option. I mean, that was the original concern that was brought to the board's attention.
We have a motion and a second to add all the green items. I'll do a roll call vote. Danny, I'll start with you.
I'll be a no, because we did not send it to the lawyer.
Matt?
No.
Ryan?
Can you repeat the motion? I'm struggling to hear you at this point.
The motion would be to approve policy 2416 as presented with all included green updates that were in the Google Doc.
Okay.
Steve?
Yes.
Ian?
No.
Lori?
No.
Myself, no. Someone else would like to make a motion on any other possible options? I guess the thing, I think we talked about it last meeting about sending it to attorney. I didn't think we had any motion or any action to send it to anybody for any review. I think we were gonna look at it, if people had comments, and then see where we wanted to go. There wasn't any comments made. I'd make a motion to add the language presented in the first line, which was nor given an option, and then no other green language added for what the Google Doc notes, I guess, and Lori, I think, deleted all the rest of them, and I just said no further changes.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that topic, or that change?
I'll just go back to, I don't think adding that is necessary still. I don't think that we have an issue that we're trying to solve. I think it creates more gray area for staff. I think as it stands today, it's appropriate.
So as it stands today, including the nor given an option?
No, because that would be a new addition,
So you'd rather have it without
just as it
that?
stands in our policy book today. Yep.
I'm fine as it is. I think we got into a few issues that we weren't sure if we could give an option or not give an option, so I think if it has any of these items, if we don't make it optional, we have to have, yeah, so I guess that's what it says. Any other comments? All right, we'll do another roll call vote on this. I'll start Amy again.
Yes.
Matt?
No.
Ryan?
I'm gonna stick with no.
Steve?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Lori?
I'll go no.
Myself, I'll say yes. So that motion will pass 4-3. To add that first line. Okay, thanks everybody for looking into that one. We'll move on to the next topic, which was items for approval. So request for additional staff from the memo from Jess Thorson from our last meeting, and then the CISA contract. If anybody wants to make a motion or has any additional questions.
I can make a motion to approve 9A, request for additional staffing with the memo as presented, and 9B, CISA number 11, 25-26 shared service contract as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, consent agenda. So, Alicia, can you note, so where would the superintendent resignation be noted on the consent agenda? It would be under the personnel update, so it'd be item 2. So it'd be A2. Okay, is there someone who'd like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Item 10 is listed on the agenda. 10A, both 1 and 2, the new addition. B, 1 and 2, C1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, and then, so we have a second. I handed out the resignation letter from Superintendent Donnelly to all the board at the beginning of this meeting. I guess I want to thank Shannon for your time, dedication, years of service to Somerset as a director, principal, and superintendent. You've accomplished many fantastic things during your time here, most recently passing the referendum for our updated stadium to hold our first track meet, which we will do in a couple weeks, in over 10 years. The elementary school renovations, our new performing arts center, which we just got to look at tonight, which will open in the fall. We continue to focus on enrollment, giving the board options and ideas to work to increase enrollment. You've worked with the buildings to analyze test scores and increase numerous categories on our school and district report cards and work to keep this at a high priority, while also understanding that schools are far more than test scores. They're about strong relationships among staff, students, families, and community. You give countless hours to this district. You've given countless hours to this district, supporting events, making our students and staff feel appreciated and supported. You consistently want what is best for our students and always work to improve their experience in Somerset. I know I've been contacted. I know you've been heavily recruited. So wherever you decide to go, wherever you go next, we'll be fortunate to have you join the team as a leader, an innovator, a professional. Many people have stated and continue to state that they know how to do your job best, how to do the job you're doing best. Yet you are the one who's actually been doing this job. And because of that, you're leaving Somerset School District in a better place than when you arrived. I'm saddened that you'll be leaving. We were losing a valuable asset. I didn't want to read that so robotically, but I had to write something down, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get through it. So just thanks again, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Motion and a second for consent agenda update. Did anybody else have any comments? Otherwise, take a vote. All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
With regret, I.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, general information. We have a work session next week, so we have a quick turnaround based on spring break, so it kind of gets a 1-week turnaround. So we'll have a meeting April 7th, and then we'll also have a regular meeting on April 21st with a listening session 30 minutes prior. Spring election is tomorrow, so make sure everyone gets out and votes tomorrow. And then the only thing I have is district celebrations. Danny, I took yours last time, so why don't you go first?
It was fun seeing everybody's spring break pictures on the district Facebook page. Those are good pictures.
I was gonna say the same thing, whoever had the idea to post that on the district page and have people chime in, I thought it really was a good representation of community and what people do away from here, yet still being connected. So thanks to whoever that was, and Shannon, I wish you the best of luck with whatever's next. Thank you for everything you've done for us. I'm sad to see you make this decision go.
Ryan?
Well, I want to mention the amazing young adults that were there for the school transition program today, and the quad jump, great things they are doing. And I want to thank Shannon for everything she's done. I mean, we're losing somebody who genuinely cares about the school district and this community, and there'll be a big hole left when you leave. But thank you very much.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize the academic achievement for girls in their sports. It's pretty remarkable. And then thank you, Shannon, for your service.
Ian?
I'll also thank the transition program for their presentation and everybody that presented tonight. Coming up April 7th is Solo Ensemble at Unity. That was always one of my favorite parts of the kids being in music.
Is that 7?
Yeah, it's middle school. Thank you, Shannon, for your service to the district. And everybody, don't forget there's an election tomorrow. You didn't know. Go vote.
Lori?
I'd like to thank Rachel Erickson for her organization of the cultural musician, Kello Sam, who came to our school district, grades K1, 5, and 6, and the band and choir students in grades 7 through 12 participated with that, and it was a huge success. Also, Melanie Newman, a former graduate of Somerset, is now a music teacher at St. Croix Central, and they were able to purchase those drums that you can see in the picture on the Spartan website. And Melanie brought those to Somerset from St. Croix Central for us to use, and then came back and picked them up and brought them back to St. Croix Central. So thank you to all of them for their work in providing that opportunity for our kids. The Somerset Memorial Scholarship Fund is sponsoring bingo at the Legion on Thursday, April 10th, so please come and play bingo. The Somerset Elementary School is having a meat raffle at Big Guy's Barbecue on April 4th, and they say that reservations are recommended, so it must be very, very busy. Thank you again to the people who are organizing our post-prom and all the people and businesses who have donated to that. And the future of our Somerset School District depends on your vote tomorrow.
All right, everybody kind of hit most of the stuff, but thanks everybody, and welcome back from spring break. When everybody came in to present, and the post-prom people who volunteer and getting all those donations, and participating in making that night happen, and I know it's a ton of time and effort. So I appreciate everything you're doing to make that happen. With that, I will look for a motion to move into closed session of the board pursuant of Wisconsin Statute 1985 1C for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. Does anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote for that. I'll start myself, yes. Danny?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
All right, we'll now move into closed session. We'll take 3 minutes.